thought of getting you a very special discussion going on this with our guest joining us from Deloitte today. Nikhil Bedi is joining us to discuss the matter of cybersecurity, corporate fraud, etc., which are on a rise. Nikhil, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Let's start by understanding the environment. What exactly do you think is going on right now? Why are such instances on such an alarming rise across India, across shapes and sizes of the companies?
Thanks, Jay. So it's really important to understand that, business has undertaken a paradigm shift, right? Ever since the pandemic has hit, I have not been to work, and I suspect a lot of others have not gone into their offices. So it's all about remote working, new technologies to access how you can work remotely, new business models. Companies are starting production of new important materials like ventilators, PPEs, etc. So all this has brought about this paradigm, and it has given a lot of challenges to how they can tackle the fraud associated with such changes to the business model.
Nikhil, you really worked very closely with companies who are actually facing such challenges. What's the feedback you're getting when you talk to people on this matter? Are they really realizing the importance of it or gravity of the situation? What's the feedback on this?
Yes, so we in the first 4-5 months of when the pandemic hit, it's really clients were trying to grapple with about existential issues about how they will bring the business back on track. But now that things are seemingly coming back on track, getting back on the rails, it's really they are finding out that there has been a lot of incidences of fraud. For example, cybercrime is on an all-time rise, and we can see that as you mentioned as well earlier. Right, but they're also realizing that as the revenue cycles and the cash cycles have got disrupted, there is no headroom to hide fraud. So there are lots of incidents coming out of the closet, and corporates are trying to wrestle with these incidents and trying to manage or respond to them.
Nikhil, also, this is not just a India-specific phenomena. We understand that globally this is becoming an issue, and companies are realizing its importance and working closely. Tell us, are there any specific trends which you are really picking up? Is there any particular size of companies where these kind of accidents are happening more, or it's very democratic and no one can ever say what kind of company, what sector, what shape and size could actually face such issues?
Right. So, Ajay, historically, it's kind of very well known and documented. Whenever there is business disruption, it kind of is subsequently followed by a lot of incidences of fraud, right? Even the ACFE, they have in May, as early as May, said that they believe that fraud is going to rise for the next 1 year, right, at the minimum, right? So while there is no, specific data on sectors, etc., but definitely when, we have run few surveys, and we overwhelmingly, our respondents have said that 80% plus of our respondents have said that fraud is going to rise in the next 2 years in India. And even globally, we've seen a lot of large corporates, etc., which have had a lot of fraud incidents over the last 9 months to a year since the pandemic broke. So I think this phenomena is all pervasive. It's there, it's here to stay. And these new business models, the new technology that has come to working from home is going to, we're going to see a lot. We're already seeing a lot of incidents of fraud, of identity theft, of phishing attacks, etc. And we are going to continue to see them till corporates don't put in place appropriate fraud risk management efforts to try and arrest these kind of issues. And it will happen. There's going to be a lot of investment which is going to be required in people, in technology, and building this culture of trust really across the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's correct. You have conducted very exhaustive surveys, and you are in the process of coming out with that detailed report as well on this issue. But still, just to, 80% is such a large number. Corporates which you have surveyed see such occurrences on a rise in the next 3 years. If that is indeed true, and they feel it that way, what I reckon is that prevention of it, or insulating yourself and putting a system and management around it so that you are relatively insulated from such occurrence, perhaps is the only solution. Talk to us more about that.
Right. So, in the last 10 odd years, we've seen that, at least in India, the trend has really been to react to frauds. But we see this trend changing. Almost 50% of our participants and respondents said that they are, focusing on fraud prevention. Now, that's a really good sign. But what does that mean? That means that, corporates, banks, they need to put in place very active technology solutions, AI, ML, to kind of, provide more real-time alerts, more real-time, risk solutions, so that fraud can get arrested at the time, just near real time at the time it's being perpetrated. It's very different from when you just react to a fraud and see what happened in a postmortem kind of way. So I think this is increasingly prevalent. A lot of companies they've not only thought about it, they have put in place or are putting in place technology solutions. They are putting in place, they're educating their ecosystem, vendors, counterparties, their employees about the risks of fraud, right? And all this is creating they're trying to create a culture of compliance. But at the same time, this takes time, this takes a lot of investment, and businesses are unfortunately grappling with the pandemic, loss of business, but at the same time, they've got to grapple with this to preserve intrinsic value. So going forward, we are going to see a lot of impetus on prevention of fraud, and that's going to be basis putting in place a lot of fraud prevention technologies.
Right. Very important, Nikhil. And also, I wonder the risks associated by not being alarmed at the right time and put precautionary risk management measures in place, as you just spoke about. Because what I wonder is that a lot of companies are listed, a lot of value destruction, or there is a lot of value at stake if indeed such checks and balances are not really deployed in time. Later on, the cost could be very high, is it not?
Absolutely, absolutely. We've seen that any fraud, it really destroys value, right? And the one thing which we cannot put a value on is the reputation loss that gets associated with it from time to time, right? But the good thing is that I think people are getting conscious, and as people look to rebuild, I think the important factor which is going to be, connected across is the trust. You have to build trust. We've seen also regulators have become very active, right? And there is a slew of regulation which has come in, Ajay, which is, right from the RBI, which has mandated a risk-based approach for carrying out AML checks, right? SEBI has mandated that all forensic audits be disclosed. MCA has mandated that all listed companies disclose all their whistleblower complaints. ICAI is now trying to, for the first time, it's actually creating a precedence that for the first time anywhere in the world, ICAI is trying to prescribe standards for forensic audit. So I think there is a realization that, that fraud risks are very, very important. And given that they destroy value, all these checks and balances are being put in place.
Right. Right. All right, Nikhil, we'll let you go on that one. A very important curtain raiser for this subject. We'll definitely delve a little more in detail in subsequent shows. But really, it brings to fore the importance of this very important subject and the risks corporate India is actually facing right now. And the only prevention is the only cure, as they say. Let's take a short break on that note. On the other side of the break, we'll put the spotlight on markets and what are the stories which are really moving stocks right now. Don't go anywhere.